The Back of the Napkin, Solving Problems and Selling Ideas with Pictures by Dan Rome. Picture this, it's 1967, in a smoky bar in San Antonio, Texas. Two men are sitting at a table, nursing their drinks. One of them, a lawyer named Herb Kelleher, is helping his client, Roland King, finalize the paperwork to shut down his failed airline. It's a somber moment, the end of a dream. But Roland isn't ready to give up. He grabs a cocktail napkin from the dispenser on the table and pulls a pen from his pocket. He draws 3 simple dots. Next to the dots, he writes 3 names: Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. Then, he connects them with 3 straight lines, forming a triangle. He looks at his lawyer and explains a new, seemingly crazy idea. What if, instead of trying to compete with the giant airlines flying all over the country, they created a tiny airline that only flew between these 3 major Texas cities? A simple, direct, low-cost service for business travelers. No complex routes, no fancy meals. Just a triangle on a map. That simple drawing on a humble napkin was the birth of Southwest Airlines, a company that would revolutionize the entire airline industry and become one of the most profitable in history. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in a meeting, staring at a 60-page PowerPoint deck or a spreadsheet filled with thousands of numbers, and felt completely lost? When you knew there was an important idea buried in there somewhere, but your brain just couldn't see it? We live in a world drowning in information, yet we often struggle to make sense of it all. We're taught to solve problems with words, numbers, and lists, but we've forgotten our most powerful, most ancient problem-solving tool: our eyes. In his groundbreaking book, The Back of the Napkin, Dan Rome reveals a secret that people like Herb Kelleher understood intuitively. A simple picture is more powerful than the most complex spreadsheet. Rome, a consultant who has taught this method to giants like Microsoft, Google, and even the United States Navy, argues that every single one of us is born a visual thinker. It doesn't matter if you think you can't draw. If you can draw a circle, a square, and a stick figure, you have all the artistic talent you need. In our journey together today, I'm going to share this simple, profound toolkit that this book offers. By the end of our conversation, you'll have a whole new way of looking at any problem you face, whether it's a confusing history assignment, a complex science project, or a big decision about your future. You'll learn how to take a messy, complicated idea, make it crystal clear with a simple drawing, and share it in a way that other people will simply get. This isn't about art, it's about clarity, and it all starts with a pen, a piece of paper, and the most powerful computer you'll ever own, your own mind. So, where do we begin? Well, let's start with the biggest hurdle that stops most people before they even try. It's a little voice in our heads that says, "But I'm not a visual person," or "I can't even draw a straight line." Dan Rome heard this so many times in his workshops that he decided to address it head-on. He assures us that solving problems with pictures has absolutely nothing to do with artistic talent. It's about thinking, not drawing. Our brains are hardwired for visual thinking. In fact, the parts of our brain dedicated to processing visual information are astonishingly powerful. We've been using them our entire lives to navigate the world without even thinking about it. The secret isn't to become a better artist. It's to become a better thinker by using our eyes. And to do that, Rome gives us a simple 4-step process. It's a process we already use thousands of times a day without realizing it. The process is look, see, imagine, and show. Think about something as simple as crossing the street. First, you look. You turn your head left and right, collecting raw visual data. Cars, pedestrians, traffic lights, your brain is absorbing everything, building a big picture sense of the environment. Second, you see. This is different from looking. Seeing is active. You're not just absorbing light, you're recognizing patterns. You see a car, and you select it as important. You notice its speed and its distance from you. You're filtering the noise and focusing on what matters. Third, you imagine. Your brain takes the patterns you've seen and starts running simulations. You see the car in your mind's eye, and you picture its path. You picture your own path. You ask, "Can I make it across before the car gets here?" You're manipulating the information, seeing what isn't there yet. And finally, you show. You make a decision and act on it. You either step into the street and walk across, or you wait on the curb. Your action shows the conclusion of your visual thinking process. Look, see, imagine, show. That's it. This simple, natural sequence is the backbone of all visual problem solving. But to truly unlock its power, we need to understand each step a little more deeply. Let's start with the first two, looking and seeing. Rome tells us that the key to looking and seeing better is to know what to look for. Any problem, no matter how vast or complex, can be broken down into 6 fundamental categories. You might remember them from elementary school. They are the 6 W's: who, what, how much, where, when, and how, plus why. These aren't just questions for a journalist. They are the 6 fundamental ways we see the world. Our brains are literally wired to process information in these categories. To make this idea come alive, Rome invites us on a little mental exercise he calls the bird dog drill, and I'd like you to try it with me now. Just relax for a moment. First, I want you to picture someone you know, someone who makes you feel good. It could be a parent, a best friend, a sibling. Just get a general image of them in your mind. Next, picture a dog. Maybe it's your family pet, or just a dog you've seen in the park. Now picture a bird. A crow, a robin, any bird will do. Finally, picture yourself sitting on a park bench on a sunny day. You're relaxed, just watching the world go by. In front of you, your friend is walking the dog on a leash. A little ways off, the bird is pecking at the grass. Now, let the scene play out in your mind. Suddenly, the dog spots the bird. Its ears perk up. It tenses. What happens next? Does the dog lunge? Does your friend pull back on the leash? Does the bird fly away? Just watch for a moment and freeze. In that simple mental movie, your brain just effortlessly demonstrated the 6 ways of seeing. First, you saw the who and the what. You saw objects, a friend, a dog, a bird, a bench. Your brain instantly recognized them as distinct things with unique qualities. Second, you saw how much. There was one friend, one dog, one bird, and probably many blades of grass. Your brain was counting and measuring without you even telling it to. Third, you saw where. The friend was in front of you, the dog was next to the friend, the bird was farther away. Your brain was creating a mental map, understanding the spatial relationships between all the objects. Fourth, you saw when. As the scene played out, things moved. The dog went from relaxed to alert. The bird might have gone from being on the ground to being in the air. You saw a sequence of events unfolding over time. Fifth, you saw how. This is about cause and effect. The dog saw the bird, which caused it to lunge. Your friend saw the dog lunge, which caused them to pull the leash. You saw how one action influenced another. And finally, by putting all of that together, you started to see why. Why did the bird fly away? Because it was scared of the dog. Why did your friend pull the leash? To keep the dog under control. You saw the big picture, the underlying reasons for the events. These 6 lenses are your first set of tools. When you're faced with a pile of confusing information, like the training manager Lila in the book, who was drowning in hundreds of cryptic training documents for a chocolate company, you don't have to get overwhelmed. You just start asking the 6 W's. Who is being trained? What are they being taught? How much time does it take? Where does it happen? When does it happen? How do the lessons connect? And why is it important? By methodically sorting the information into these 6 buckets, Lila and her team were able to turn chaos into a series of clear, simple pictures that everyone could finally understand. So we've looked at the world, and we've seen the patterns by sorting them into the 6 W's. Now we come to the most creative part of the process, imagine. Imagining, Rome says, is simply seeing with your eyes closed. It's where we take the patterns we've found and start playing with them in our mind's eye. manipulating them to see what new ideas fall out. To help us do this systematically, he gives us another brilliant tool, a simple mnemonic called the SQVID. SQVID stands for 5 pairs of questions we can ask about any idea to force our brain to see it from different angles. To understand it, let's do another quick visualization. Imagine you're on a tropical island, and you meet a local who has never seen an apple. You don't speak the same language, so you have to explain what an apple is, using only pictures on a napkin. The first thing you might draw is a single, simple apple. That's your first question from SQVID. S stands for simple or elaborate. Do you want to show the core concept, a single apple, or do you want to show the whole system it belongs to, an entire orchard? Both are valid ways to describe an apple, but they tell very different stories. Next, you might think about what makes an apple special. This leads to the second question. Q stands for quality or quantity. Do you want to show its qualitative aspects, its shiny red skin, its crisp texture, the perfect shape? Or do you want to show its quantitative data, its nutritional information, like vitamin C content and calories? One is about feeling, the other is about facts. Then you might think about the apple's purpose. This brings us to the V. V stands for vision or execution. Do you want to show the ultimate vision of what an apple can become? A delicious, steaming apple pie? Or do you want to show the step-by-step execution of how to make that pie? Slice the apple, add sugar, bake at 350 degrees. One is the what, the other is the how. Then you consider your audience, the islander. This is the I. I stands for individual or comparison. Does it make more sense to show the apple by itself, focusing on its unique details? Or would it be better to compare it to other fruits the islander might already know, like a banana or an orange, to show how it's similar and how it's different? Finally, you think about the apple's life cycle. This is the D, which stands for delta, the Greek symbol for change. D stands for change or as is. Do you want to show how an apple changes over time, from a seed to a blossom to a fruit? Or do you just want to show it as it is right now? You could even show how it ends, as an apple core. Simple or elaborate, quality or quantity, vision or execution, individual or comparison, change or as is. By running a single idea, the apple, through these 5 questions, you've just forced your mind to generate 10 completely different pictures. This simple exercise stretches your imagination and helps you find the best possible way to frame your idea for your specific audience. If the islander was a baker, the execution drawing of the pie recipe would be perfect. If they were a doctor, the quantitative nutrition chart would be best. The SQVID helps you find the right picture for the right person. We've now looked, seen, and imagined. We've collected our data, sorted it with the 6 W's, and explored it from every angle with the SQVID. We're finally ready for the last step, show. This is where we actually pick up the pen and draw. And this is where Rome reveals his most powerful and elegant idea, the master key that ties everything together. He calls it the 6x6 rule. The rule is breathtakingly simple. For every one of the 6 ways we see, there is one corresponding, basic type of picture to show. Think about that. Out of the thousands of possible charts, graphs, and diagrams in the world, we only need to know 6 basic types. When we want to show who or what, we draw a portrait. This isn't a fine art painting. It's a simple sketch that captures the key identifying features of a person or an object. When we want to show how much, we draw a chart, a bar chart or a pie chart that makes numbers visible. When we want to show where, we draw a map. This shows how different parts relate to each other in space. When we want to show when, we draw a timeline. This shows a sequence of events over time. When we want to show how, we draw a flow chart. This shows cause and effect, how one step influences the next. And finally, when we want to show why, we draw a multivariable plot. This is the most complex picture, where we overlay several of the other frameworks to reveal the deeper connections and the big picture story. Portrait, chart, map, timeline, flowchart, plot. That's our complete visual toolkit. To see how this all comes together to solve a real, messy business problem, Rome walks us through a detailed case study of a fictional software company he calls Saks Inc. The problem is simple. Their sales have gone flat. They need to figure out why and what to do about it. So they apply the visual thinking process. First, a who and what problem. Who are our customers? They draw a portrait of the different types of people who use their software: executives, salespeople, accountants, and technicians. Next, a how much problem. How many of each type are buying? They create a chart. They get a huge surprise. While accountants are the most numerous users, it's the executives and the technicians who are spending the most money per person. They've been focusing their sales efforts on the wrong people. This leads to a where problem. Where do these valuable technicians fit into the client's organization? They draw a map, an organizational chart. They find the technicians are way at the bottom. But after talking to their salespeople, they discover an unofficial connection. A young tech whiz named Jason is the go-to guy for fixing everyone's computers, even the top executives. He's the hidden influencer. They've found the key. So, a when problem. When can we improve our software to appeal to Jason? They draw a timeline, a project plan, showing that a full redesign to give Jason the flexibility he wants will take 9 months and cost $9 million. This creates a how problem. How can we possibly justify this cost? They draw a flowchart that maps out their entire logic, from identifying the flat sales, to discovering Jason, to proposing the software redesign as the solution. And finally, the big why problem. Why is this massive investment the right decision? They create a multivariable plot. This one picture shows everything: all their competitors, their respective technologies, their revenues now, and their projected revenues next year. The plot reveals a terrifying truth. New competitors using modern, open platforms are about to overtake them. Their old technology is a dead end. The $9 million investment isn't just an upgrade. It's a matter of survival. Armed with this series of simple pictures, the team can now walk into the executive boardroom and tell a clear, compelling, and undeniable story. And this brings us to the final crucial lesson of the book. It's not enough to create a picture. You have to know how to present it. Rome tells a painful story about a high-stakes consulting pitch where the team leader, Lauren, froze in front of a brilliant, data-rich chart. Why? Because she was used to reading bullet points from a slide. When faced with a picture, she didn't know what to say or where to start. They lost the project. The secret to presenting a picture, he reveals, is to use the exact same 4-step process you used to create it. You take your audience on the journey with you. You start by looking aloud. Let me orient you to what we're looking at. Along the bottom here you explain the coordinates and the basic landscape of the picture. Then you see aloud. Now what's interesting here are these 3 patterns that stand out. You point out the most important insights. Then you imagine aloud. This pattern got us thinking. What if we could move our company from this position to this one over here? You explore possibilities and scenarios. And finally, you show aloud. Based on all of this, our conclusion is clear. This is the path forward. Do you see what we see? You state your conclusion and invite discussion. You don't just show them the destination, you walk them down the path of discovery. By doing so, the picture becomes more than just data. It becomes a shared story, a common ground for understanding and decision-making. That is the ultimate power of solving problems on the back of a napkin. As we wrap up our journey through the back of the napkin, what's the big lesson we should take away? For me, it's a profound and liberating truth. Clarity is a choice, not a gift. In a world that seems to be getting more complex by the minute, we have a simple, built-in tool to cut through the noise. Dan Rome's work isn't just a business book. It's a manual for reclaiming a fundamental human skill. We are all born visual thinkers. As children, we drew constantly. It was how we made sense of the world. But somewhere along the way, Through years of education focused on words and numbers, many of us came to believe we'd lost that ability. We traded our crayons for keyboards and our sketch pads for spreadsheets. This book reminds us that this skill was never lost, it was just dormant. The frameworks Rome provides, the 4 steps, the 6 W's, the SQVID, and the 6x6 rule, are like a user's guide to our own brains. They give us a structured, reliable way to access that powerful visual part of our mind anytime we need it. So how can you start using this today? It's simpler than you think. First, the next time you feel stuck on a problem, a confusing essay prompt, a tricky math concept, or just a big life decision, don't just think about it in your head. Grab a piece of paper and a pen. Ask yourself, who or what is involved? How much of it is there? Where are all the pieces? When do things happen? How do they influence each other? And why does it matter? Just asking these questions will begin to untangle the mess. Second, try to draw the answer to just one of those questions. It doesn't have to be pretty. A simple map of the moving parts, a timeline of events, or a flowchart of cause and effect. The goal isn't to create a masterpiece. It's to make your thoughts visible. The moment an idea leaves your head and lands on paper, it changes. It becomes something real, something you can look at, analyze, and improve. Finally, the next time you need to explain an idea to someone else, a teacher, a friend, your parents, don't just rely on words. Grab a whiteboard or a napkin and sketch it out. You'll be amazed at how a few simple circles and arrows can create a moment of shared understanding, an aha moment that hours of talking could never achieve. This isn't just a trick for the boardroom, it's a superpower for everyday communication. That was a summary of The Back of the Napkin by Dan Rome. We've explored the core frameworks today, but I have to be honest with you. A summary is like looking at a travel brochure. It can show you the beautiful sights, but it can never replace the experience of the journey itself. The real magic of this book happens when you pick it up and try the exercises for yourself. It's in those moments, pen in hand, when a confusing problem suddenly clicks into focus. This summary is your map to help you decide if this journey is one you want to take. If anything we've talked about has sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a new skill, it's about rediscovering a powerful part of yourself that's been waiting to be awakened. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable and want to continue exploring the world's most powerful ideas, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Billionaire's Bookshelf. It helps us continue to bring these summaries to you and ensures you won't miss our next adventure into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.